The price of silver is going insane right now at almost $35 an ounce. And I think it actually did cross over 35 earlier today, but it's right now at $34.98, up 3% for the day. And gold at $27.58, hitting another all-time high at 1% for the day. I mean, if we look at just the metals performance history here, especially in the last 6 months, I mean, it is up 27% in the last 6 months, and it is just going on an absolute tear, especially silver. And another thing to point out too is the gold silver ratio. It has dropped back down below 80, and that's going to be what I want to talk about a little bit in this video, because we haven't seen it hit below 80 since around May and into the summer of this year. So it has been sitting above 80 up until recently, and there's pretty much a new strategy that I'm going to discuss with you guys as to how I purchase my metals and what I'm going to be doing now that these price changes are happening. Alrighty guys, well, thank you for tuning in for yet another video. So today I want to talk about that strategy that I was just mentioning before and what that is. I'm going to break it all down because I never really explained it in detail of what it is I like to do. I think I mentioned it just briefly in other videos, but basically because the gold silver ratio is now lowering and because silver is rising faster than the price of gold, the gold silver ratio is currently dropping almost 2% for the day. And this is what I look for when it comes to purchasing metals, and it helps me decide which one I want to focus my allocations into. And basically the way it works is when it's above 80, I purchase pretty much exclusively silver, almost 100% silver. When it's below 60, it's 100% gold. The problem is when it gets in between 80 and 60, it's kind of a weird spot because it can fluctuate a lot, and it makes it really, you don't really know which one it is that you want to invest it in. So I'm going to explain a little bit of my strategy and how I do it and how I execute it. So the strategy isn't going to change. It's just more so the execution and the purchase of what I'm going to be purchasing is what's going to change. So now I want to take you to an Excel sheet that I made. I'm going to break everything down here just one by one so you guys can see. At the top here, I have the gold and silver prices and the spot price of silver. I put these numbers in for what it is currently at the time of this video, so these numbers may change, but that's what this section right here is for. The one to the right of it is exactly what I have owned. So all of this is in silver. So I didn't write it out in complete detail, but essentially I only have 45 ounces or 45.27 ounces of silver in my possession. And so when you take that and you times it by the spot price, that's how much the value of silver is. So I put this in here to track how much I have. Now, just to break this down for you, this right here is in junk, or excuse me, this is all of the junk silver dimes that I own. These are the silver war nickels, and these are the junk silver quarters, and these are the bars and rounds worth of silver. That's why you see the 0.27 because of some of the fractional silver here. So that's how you get this number right there. And I put this into this next section. Now, I personally like to keep 10% of my net worth in gold. And so I have this is pretty much formatted and formulated to show what that would look like. So I can adjust this net worth. I just put 50,000 in. That's not my net worth. So I'm just using this as an example. But let's say you had $50,000 net worth. So what it's going to do, it's going to break down a bunch of stuff here down below, and I'll get to that in a second. But essentially, it takes the gold silver ratio. It looks at my current value of gold and silver possessions, my net worth, what 10% of my net worth would be, and how much of a difference I'm lacking in. So pretty much when I'm trying to understand how much money I want to put into gold and silver, pretty much the needs is how much I'm willing to allocate. If my net worth increases, I'm obviously going to be adding more gold and silver to reach that 10%. But if for whatever reason my net worth decreases, then I'm not going to sell it to match that number. I'm just going to keep holding on to the gold and silver and just wait until it comes back up. And this is just the prioritization, if I can say it. This is how I prioritize my purchases. So here's the priority that I have when it comes to pretty much my purchases and how I want to do it. Now, this is what I believe the three strategies that most people kind of fall into, or the three categories that people fall into. The stackers for the coins and bars are going to be those who want to protect themselves against the dollar. The junk silver is going to be obviously for the ones who are predicting or anticipating an SHTF scenario, and the collectibles are just for collectibles. So usually I think we fall in the first category and we prepare for the second one, but hope that we never go to it. But I think most stackers probably are in the first category, and then on the side we do the junk silver for those type of barter scenarios. But that's not going to be the point of this video. And this next section right here is just how much on hand that I have based off of what this information is here. So this will tell me what it is I'm looking at. And I mentioned it a second ago. Gold silver ratio is above 80. I think that's actually backwards, but let's just say that this is above 80. I purchase silver. If it's between 79 and 61, I pretty much hold and reallocate certain metals if I need to. And if it's below 60, I will purchase gold. So this big section here is going to pretty much show what to do during the times when the gold silver ratio is between 80 and 60, because it's easy to know when it's above 80 what to purchase and when it's below 60 what to purchase. But when it goes in between that, that's when you kind of have to mix and match certain metals, and it can be kind of, you don't really know which one it is you maybe want to focus more on. So I have this written out in a formula that breaks it down so that depending on whatever the ratio is at the time when I purchase, I can see where I need to maybe focus more of my purchasing into. So for example, today's numbers, the gold silver ratio is at 78.84. I'm going to assume that it's at 78. So if I were to purchase if it comes to the time of the month where I'm going to want to purchase some precious metals, because I don't have any in gold and the ratio is at 78, I'm going to try to purchase $500 worth of gold. Now, I know when it comes to purchasing gold, you want to buy them mainly in the 1 ounce because you're going to be paying a lot in the premiums, and I understand that. So if you're not willing to purchase for the premiums, you could maybe trade. That's why I have the reallocate in here, because you might want to maybe sell off some of the silver and put that in to gold. But again, that depends on how much you have. There's a bunch of different factors, but again, I like it to see where it is at the time of when it comes for me to purchase. So I personally like to purchase a dollar cost average strategy. So once a month, pretty much at the end of the month, I figure out how much money I have left over, and I usually allocate about $200 a month. And I just look and see where I'm at. If, for example, this $50,000 net worth, and I need to have 5,000 in gold and silver, I still need 3,416 because I currently only have 1,583. So to hit that, you would obviously just look and see, okay, we're at 78 for the ratio. I need to purchase some, at least maybe $500 worth of gold. That's just what I do. And of course, if your net worth changes and if you have any other purchases, then these numbers are going to change. So let's say your net worth let's say it dropped down to 40,000. So now instead of the original number, we're now at that 2416. So instead of $500 worth of gold, it's now dropped to $400. So it does change a little bit. And of course, these numbers will vary person to person, but that's pretty much how it works. So like, let's say I had actually 25 ounces of silver on hand, that number would change again. And it just tells me exactly where I need to be with everything. So that's just what I have for this little graph that I made for myself, so that when it comes time to purchase gold and silver, I know what it is I need to purchase based off what the ratio is telling me, because I do purchase and trade my metals based off of the ratio. So what would that look like if I were to execute a trade today? Let's say I decided this is the time of the month where I'm going to buy some gold and silver. So I would look in a real life scenario, or a mock scenario, if you will. For 78 on the gold silver ratio, I would come to my chart and look and see what 78 would be at. I would want to have 10% of my net worth in gold and 90% in silver. So as long as it matches up. Otherwise, in this scenario, since I have 0% in gold, I'm going to want to purchase $500 worth of gold. So just using SD Bullion's site, I would probably go into the gram bars just because I know that's probably going to be the closest price range I can get. And I would buy the closest to 500 that I can find. Most likely it's going to be a 5 gram, for example, this, the Pamp Suisse one, the Lady Fortuna. So there's different things you can do. I mean, you can look at some of the fractionals. I know there's like the 1/10 ones are just slightly under 500. But there are different things. This is where I just start to kind of explore and see what my options are. Maybe the 1/10 Maple Leaf. You start looking to see what can I get closest to 500 as possible. So that way I can be close to 10% as best as I can. So that's kind of just how I were to do it. And of course, it's easier with silver if I only have $200 to allocate. Again, it's all dependent on what you're able to do. If I didn't have a money in limitations, then yeah, I'd be buying probably the 1 ounce Gold Eagle or something. But again, it really just depends on the data that you have here and how much you're willing to spend as well. Now, obviously the price of silver and gold are doing amazing right now, especially this year with their all-time highs in gold and silver coming back into the 35 range, which we haven't seen since like 2011, 2012. I still think it's still better to get into the metals, even though it's at a high right now of 35, because it could go higher than 30. It could go above 50. It could go, who knows what it's going to do. It might drop back down to 20. I mean, we don't know. But again, the dollar cost averaging will help correct that for the most part. But again, I think the biggest mistake anyone can make is not getting into the metals or any investment. Just sitting on your hands waiting for the right opportunity, your hands are gonna go numb. So it's better just to get into it. I still think it's a great deal no matter what, and I'm gonna keep buying regardless. And so, but there are a couple things that I do want to bring up that are going to be happening here. I've mentioned this a couple times. I feel like I've mentioned it almost in every video, but obviously we have the presidential elections coming up very soon. And then obviously in the next 2 weeks or so, we are having the Fed meeting where they are expecting a 91% probability that the rates are going to be cut again. So, which are just going to drive the prices up. With everything that's happening, again, I've mentioned this before in other videos, but you are creating an environment that is going to be great for gold and silver. So I think people should be getting into this now, because $35, while it looks great and it looks like it might be just going too high, this could not. We might not ever see below 30 price of silver again. So we don't really know, but it's just something to consider. That's all I wanted to talk about in this video. I just wanted to bring up just the crazy price changes in silver and what it's done in the past month or so, and just some of the strategies that I like to do, because I also didn't think I ever explained it properly. So I hope that makes sense. Let me know what you guys think about that strategy. Is that something that you guys would do? I'd love to hear the comments down below. Let me know what you think, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye bye, guys.